He been playing stupid with you. Trust me, girl, I know. It's time that I assume position. I'll save you for sure. These other niggas don't appreciate.
So our frontal is dyed. So our frontal is dyed. Is dyed. Is dyed. You on part two. You on part two. You on part two. So we have already dyed our frontal, guys. You're on part two. You on part two. Now let's go ahead and construct this wig so we can go ahead and throw it on and not worry about getting a sew in or worrying about what we're gonna do to our hair. Let's just get started. So before I start to sew this frontal down, I want to make sure that I have my little areas marked where I know I need to sew. So I'm taking my frontal, my dome cap, in this white eyeliner pencil, and I'm being dumb because I feel like this was the only way to hold my frontal down. But I just marked the sides where my ear stopped, and I marked the top of my dome cap where my frontal stops at the back. So when I pin my frontal on my mannequin head, I know the areas where I need to, you know, start sewing, because of course this mannequin head is not the size of my head. And you're going to take your jumbo needle. I feel like using the jumbo needle is going to help you sew faster and easier. It just makes it easier to just, you know, get it done. And I'm using nylon thread. Now I do have to say that this nylon thread I wasn't a fan of. I don't know if this is the right nylon thread or what, but it kept tangling on me. So I kind of switched between the nylon thread and the regular thread. But when I'm sewing down this frontal, I'm doing like a fence design. So when you pull the needle through the frontal and the dome cap, you're going to have like this little loop. So you're going to pull a little bit, and then you're going to place that needle in between that little circle right there, and then you're just going to pull, and it's going to create this fence-like design. And I feel like this is the best way to make sure that your frontal is secure in place and it's not going to move. So I'm just going to keep doing this design all the way over until I get to the end of the frontal. Now I've reached the other side, and I'm going to show you guys how I make sure I secure that thread on the other end. I just pull the needle through and I wrap the thread around 2 times, and then I pull. That's going to help it secure, and then I'm just going to cut it and just tie it. So the bundles that I'm using are by Unice Hair. These are their Peruvian body wave, and this is in 24 inches. Both of them are the same length, but my frontal is Brazilian. They didn't have Peruvian frontal, so it is 2 different types of hair, but I feel like it's still going to blend. I don't really see a difference. So I'm going to be doubling my tracks, and I'm going to use the T-pins to hold that in place. I made the mistake of thinking that I could just, you know, start sewing, and I started sewing one track and not the other track. So use your T-pins. Your T-pins are your friends, and as you get closer to the T-pins, you could just take them out. So again, I'm still doing the little fence motion in the beginning, but as I start sewing, I just start looping it over and over again, because I feel like I didn't have to do this all the way through. I wanted to make sure my frontal stayed, but my bundles, you know, in the beginning and the end, to secure it, I did the fence little design. So again, I'm reaching the end, and I'm going to sew, continue to sew, but when I get to the end, I'm going to sew those wefts to my frontal. I'm just making sure that everything connects and it's not like a space. I want everything to be cohesive and together, and you know, just no mistakes. So I'm the type of girl who don't like to cut her wefts on her bundle, so I'm doing like this little flip over method. I am going to cut the weft when I get to the top because I want it to lay flat, But you just never know. You don't want to cut your wefts, because what if you destroy this wig somehow and you need some extra bundles of hair and you need to take this wig apart. You want to have your bundles back. So I am not going to cut my wefts until I get to the top. I like to keep my wefts intact. So I'm just going to continue to sew, and I'm doing these little looping methods and twisting it around a couple of times. Throughout this whole wig, I sew different, so it's up to you if you want to sew the same way or follow my way, as long as you are sewing and making sure that the tracks are staying. So I'm showing you guys that I'm going to continue to do the wraparound method, and I have the first bundle installed, and this is how it's looking so far. And I do have to tell you guys, the way that I'm sewing, I'm kind of creating like a smile, or like a half of crescent, whatever you want to call it. I'm kind of, you know, curving it. So you want to sew like this until you get midway through your wig. So again, I'm taking that T-pin, making sure that I'm sticking it through both wefts before I actually pin it to the mannequin, because you don't want to make any mistakes. And then I'm going to add the second bundle of hair, and then I'm going to continue to sew. So we've reached halfway, you know, through, and I'm still on my second bundle of hair. Now I'm showing you guys that I'm going to start sewing these tracks straight, just so I can have a flat application, and again using those T-pins to secure the tracks down before I start sewing. So from this point on, I'm going to start you know, sewing straight. I'm going to start laying those tracks straight across, and I'm not curving anymore. Now that I got that first track laid straight, I am going to start cutting my wefts. And it's only because I want the top to lay flat. And I feel like I have about a bundle and a half, you know, without cutting it. And a couple of tracks cut at the top is not going to, you know, do anything. You just want to make sure that the top of your hair is laying flat, because this is the most important part. So I'm continuing to sew. I just showed you guys how it's looking so far. I'm placing one more track right there, and I'm allowing a little space in between my frontal and the tracks, just so it's kind of like, you know, seamless. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just continuing to sew. And then I'm going to tie the ends at least 3 or 4 times just to make sure that that track doesn't go anywhere. And I'm still doubling my tracks, by the way, guys, if you're wondering. So we are basically done with sewing everything down. And I'm just showing you guys how it looks. Now I'm going to take the wig off of the mannequin, and now it's time to cut the extra dome cap off. Now I do have to say, when you're cutting this dome cap off, you are going to get a little flakes from your foam head if you're using a foam head, but you don't want to cut the dome cap so close to your lace that you accidentally cut the thread and then your whole wig falls apart. We don't want that. So I'm cutting an inch above the frontal, and I'm just going to cut the dome cap off. Now you're going to need a band to help secure your wig down. And I learned this from Tiara Monet on YouTube. If you don't know her, check her out. She actually used the band from the dome cap and just sewed it on her wig. I thought that was the smartest thing ever. So cutting off that extra little dome cap, I'm going to then use this band and sew it where my dome cap left off, just to add extra security. And this is it for part 2. Watch part 3 on how I customize and apply this wig. You guys, we're almost there.